All right, let's pick this up where I just left off. So, Scott knows he's on his way out. Joe Lanza is reporting that he talked to somebody on his flagship, the Voices of Wrestling flagship. He's saying that he talked to somebody who says that this is more about bringing in somebody else than it necessarily is about Scott, but that the company is trying to slash money instead of give him more. I find it hard to believe that after a weekend like Hard to Kill that they're not making money. That would be very hard for me to believe. They've got numerous TV deals. I mean, I'm sure they don't make much with Access, but they've got numerous TV deals all over the country. They got the YouTube. They got the TNA Plus app that they make stuff on. So Scott knows he's on his way out. Mike Johnson reports that Scott tried to buy TNA. So this is from Mike Johnson's reporting. The word making the rounds over the last day or so is that in some point in recent weeks, D'Amore approached Anthem with an offer to buy TNA outright from them. Said to have been backed by a letter with a major banking institution, but it was rebuffed. So, and I didn't know this until this all came out, Scott D'Amore is independently wealthy. He does not need TNA. He doesn't need Anthem. He's done it basically as a passion project. This guy eats, sleeps, and breathes TNA over the last few years. His family owns a construction company. He owns a real estate company up in Windsor, Canada. It wouldn't be that far-fetched to see him buy the company. And to be honest with you, I still wouldn't put it past him to go find a group of people to back him. It's possible that this offer was rebuffed by Len because it was Scott. And he's just like a fuck you to Scott. Because Mike Johnson continues and says, we've heard from some on the Anthem side that it was seen as a legitimate offer that was worthy of consideration, but the decision was made not to accept. So, money talks. Even if you weren't really planning on selling, if somebody comes to you with a good offer, you should at least consider it. It doesn't seem like that was done here. The interesting part in this whole scenario is that Anthem themselves is actually owned by an investment capital company called Northern Pacific Group, whose job is to make companies buy companies, make them more valuable, and then turn around and sell them. So I don't understand why Len Asper. I mean, it seems like these guys are still going to be trying to put money into it and still trying to move forward with the momentum that they have based on the statement of Anthony Ciccione, the new TNA president, but only time will tell on that. So where does that leave everybody now? Scott's out. Let's see. We're told D'Amore, this is from PW Insider, Mike Johnson of PW Insider again. We're told D'Amore was aware at least a week to 10 days ago the change was coming, so this wasn't a shocking firing out of nowhere. It was announced yesterday to the talent and staff, but he's known for several weeks. Johnson says he first heard about it a couple weeks ago and was working to confirm the story. We are told there have been lots of meetings planned out over how things will work and a post-D'Amore Anthem would look like. They're going to try to improve upon integrating TNA into their entertainment wing. Basically, they're going to try to get more talent into their TV shows, into the movies, stuff like that. Who's this new president? Anthony Ciccione. Mike Johnson again. In asking around the entertainment industry about Ciccione, we're told that he has the reputation of being a stand person and a really smart executive who will listen to feedback as opposed to somebody who's just going to come in and bulldoze the room. So that kind of goes along with Ciccione's own statement about Dave Meltzer's statement about he was talking to wrestlers and staff about the business and getting feedback. This guy seems to be open to the feedback because he's never run a wrestling company before. He's an executive. He did help bring WWE to the Score, which is, I believe it's a channel in Canada at some point. Let's see. Another said that D'Amore was using the success of the last pay-per-view, this was from Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer, to try to increase the budget, but there had been issues with thinking a lot. He wanted to grow the company. That's another main issue that seems to be a thing here, is that Scott really wanted to grow the company even bigger than what it was, and it seems like even if they leave it where it is, Anthem is just content with where it's at right now. Nothing was said about creative. There was a belief that Tommy Dreamer, who had been D'Amore's right-hand man, a second in command, would be in charge, but neither he nor anybody else was told that. They also have Gail Kim there, who I would probably put Gail Kim in charge of the booking and the creative before I would put Dreamer in there. Just even if it's just a PR move and a safe face, but Gail's awesome, and I think she would really excel in that. Dreamer, Gail Kim, and R.D. Evans are the key people that were working with Scott on the creative end. Let's see. Yeah. That's about it for now. So, I mean, a lot of this, I've been talking to people about it all day. Like, a lot of this is a wait and see. Like, the summary of this is basically like, Scott, before Hard to Kill happened, Scott went to Anthem and said, I want an increased budget. Anthem came back and they said, we just spent all this money on stuff. We don't want to give you an increased budget right now. Scott was like, well, I'm going to quit if I don't get it. And after doing that seemingly numerous times in the past, they finally decided to call his bluff and they said, all right, well, you can quit. And now, since Scott's not running TNA anymore, they're going to just wrap it into their entertainment wing, who this Anthony Siccione was already the president of. So that's why D'Amore was kind of out. Michael Cavazzini, who is writing a book on TNA, had a little bit of context to add to this as well. He's got some sources inside TNA from putting his book together and stuff like that. And what he is saying is he did some research, and after they realized he was out, okay, here it goes, sorry. Scott was an integral part of the TNA success and rebirth. After doing some primary research, I can tell you that Scott wasn't fired. He didn't make any mistakes that resulted in his termination. Now, this is a point of contention because Anthem, when this press release first came out from TNA, from Anthem, they said that he had been terminated. And then when Anthem executives jumped on the call with Gail Kim and Tommy Dreamer and the rest of the talent and staff, they said that Scott, it was an amicable split. So you're already lying if that's the case, you're already lying to people right off the bat. Nobody really knows what happened. It's possible Scott just walked away on its own. It's possible that Len Asper, after not getting his budget increases and failing to, purchase the company on his own, Scott just said, all right, well, I don't want to be here anymore if I can't be the president of TNA. And they just let him walk away. It's also, everybody would love to get Scott's side of this story. It's also, Scott is on a separation agreement where he can't talk about it for a certain amount of time. So hopefully that comes out. But Michael Cavazzini continues and says, what happens is that Scott and Anthem had a different vision for the future of TNA wrestling and how to get there. Whether those differences came down to money or creative is unknown. From what I ascertained, Scott was presented with other opportunities to work within Anthem. So not president of TNA Wrestling, but something else. He turned those job offers down because the only job he wanted was president of TNA Wrestling, and to do so with a certain level of freedom to make important decisions. Anthem wouldn't allow him to do this, and he wasn't interested in being placated with other jobs, so he chose to leave. Which is what I was saying is absolutely possible. If they said, well, we're going to make this guy the president of TNA, and we're bringing it back under the Anthem umbrella. Scott's operated for a long time without a lot of oversight. It was like Ed Nordholm was there with him. And then when he really took over as president of TNA and Ed kind of backed off, Scott's had basically not really had to answer to anybody. But yeah, I mean, a lot of this is just going to be wait and see. Like, TNA has their live event, their No Surrender event on the Friday the 23rd. They'll have a TV taping on the 24th. They got Mustafa Ali coming in. You already Nick Nemeth is going to miss it, but Ali's coming in. You're going to have AJ Francis there in some kind of role. I'm sure Ash by Elegance is going to have something to do with it as well. We should be hearing from her this next week on the TNA episode. But, I mean, I'll try to update you guys or do the best I can to update anything that comes up with this story. But that's basically it. Based on what we know. I'm not going to say that's it, but that's all that we know based on what's been reported. Scott tried to get more money. Len Asper and Anthem said no. Scott said, well, I want to buy the company. Aside from trying to get more money, he wanted less oversight, and Anthem did not want to do that. So Scott said, well, I want to try to buy the company. They did not even consider his offer to buy the company. Maybe they're just not interested in selling. I mean, like I said, I can't prove that they bought an entire TV network for TNA because that sounds outrageous. But they didn't buy a TV. They didn't buy the TV network until TV negotiations with Access TV fell through. When they started talking to Access TV, and Mark Cuban at the time was the owner of HDNet and Access TV, it was just to put Impact Wrestling on the channel. It wasn't to buy it. And then once that fell apart, that's when they decided that they were going to try to buy the whole network. So that's how it played out. That's a huge investment right there. I think Scott D'Amore one time said that was like $875 million to buy the TV network. You know, got them a footprint in the U.S., which Ed Nordholm had said they've been looking for a long time because this is a Canadian company. But yeah, so negotiations with Len and Scott fell through, whether it was creative, whether it was money, whatever it was. Scott tried to buy it, it failed. So essentially, Len called his bluff, he walked away, and now we are where we are. I'm not a huge fan of, like, more Tommy Dreamer, but, you know, and I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for saying this, but, like, I like Scott D'Amore. Scott D'Amore, if this is how it played out, and again, I'm not saying that it is, but some of it certainly looks that way. If this is part of how it played out, Scott D'Amore has got to take part of this blame too. Like, you can only tell your boss so many times, you know, screw you, I'm going to quit if I don't get what I want, before eventually he's going to stop looking like a little bitch and be like, well, you know what, you can walk away then because I'm not going to keep letting other people see you walk all over me. You know, so, I mean, it's a tough situation, but, you know, the company's not done. It's not like a mass firing the day they took over. They came in, Scott's the only one that's gone. The rest of their team is still there. You got Gail Kim, you got Tommy Dreamer. As much as people don't like Tommy Dreamer, he's a wealth of experience, he's a wealth of knowledge. He ran his own company for a little while before COVID, House of Hardcore. I don't know how consistently they ran or how frequently, but he had some decent talent over there. You have D'Lo Brown over there. You have Lance Storm over there. Like, these are all former WWE people. These are all former, like, you know, TNA and Impact people. Like, they have knowledge. Some of them have been around since Jeff Jarrett was still running TNA and Dixie Carter was still running Impact years ago. Like, these guys have knowledge of the business. They have experience in the business. You know, losing Scott, yes, it's going to be big for morale. It's going to take some adjustment. It's going to take some getting used to. But this isn't like, oh my God, TNA's in the mud. Like, we all need to fucking run around like chickens with our heads cut off because we don't know what the fuck's going on. Sit back, watch what happens, read it. These guys that are reporting this stuff are some of the best people to report it. Mike Johnson, I think, when it comes to TNA and Impact stuff, I think Mike Johnson is one of the best. He usually has the most accurate reporting. No Not to shit on anybody else that I'm reading information from or anything like that, but usually Mike Johnson gets the best stuff when it comes to TNA, and him and Fightful. But I'm kind of surprised that, Sean Ross Sapp didn't really have much of this at all compared to what Dave got and what PW Insider Mike Johnson got. But Dave's usually pretty good with the numbers. Dave's the one that reported the hard-to-kill numbers and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like, until they give me a reason not to, I'm gonna keep watching. I'm gonna see what happens. Like, to be like, Access TV or Anthem bought TNA to be just some cheap programming, and now it's one of the best TV programs out there. If we're being honest, there's no way you can't tell me that he didn't get a lot of these budget increases that he wanted with the talent that they have and some of the contracts that they've got. And you're constantly telling me that, you got some of the publications reporting that, I think Fightful reported Jordan Grace re-signed and she got a significant pay increase with her money. She didn't need that money. She's got like an OnlyFans or something where she was making millions of dollars. So that, they gave it to her anyway because people like Scott D'Amore. Hopefully this doesn't mean that a whole bunch of the talent asked for their release because they like D'Amore that much. But again, it's a wait and see. So that's where we're at right now. That's, I gave you the reporting. I gave you my thoughts on it. I'll keep you all updated as it goes. Peace. All right, let's pick